Hey everyone, this is Greg, your host of Goddamn Gamecube. Thank you for tuning in to Season 2. All episodes in this season were conducted virtually over the internet because of the coronavirus pandemic, so please excuse any audio glitches or oddities you may hear during these episodes. Thank you and enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Goddamn Gamecube, the best goddamn video game podcast there is. We're back, a fourth episode in our Halo retrospective. We're talking about this weird kind of swan song era for Bungie, the games Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach. So we're going to kick things off with ODST as it came out first. And this is kind of this game I was looking forward to it. It launched. The first trailer was Halo 3 Recon, and I believe it was intended to be a much shorter game, and it just kept kind of spinning out from there. I think this game is like cool. I think it's a really interesting concept that they do a couple cool things with. I think if they had just gone a little further in certain places, I know it's kind of just a contract filler. Like, you know, it wasn't going to be as complete a big an upgrade as Reach would be. But they play around with some stuff that is pretty innovative. And I generally like the game, even though I think it falls short in certain places.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, this game actually ranks pretty high for me in terms of all the Halos. I think it's very interesting. Yeah. I like how you're running around the city and kind of finding the memories or whatever, or finding the missions. I actually liked it a lot, more than I thought I would. Personally,
yeah. I think it's very pretty much the only reason why I wasn't more positive on it at the time is that I was very whatever about Halo in general, and it was like, this is the story that leads up to 3, but 3 already happened, so I don't really care. And in fact, when people are playing this series for the first time, I recommend they play this before 3, just so it doesn't feel so like prehensile. It's just like you know, it's a cute little story. I don't think the characters are terribly interesting, you know, maybe a few exceptions. I think actually I was thinking about it, this is something that I don't think I've ever seen, like even in like a sci-fi movie, is how the city's AI is the cute little green avatar guy. He directs you to your next objective with the street signs. Like, he changes the like slow or head this way. He points like arrows or like danger ahead or something when there's enemies. It's a cute little kind of clues that it really kind of set this game apart. It makes it feel a little bit more creative. Very notably, on Nick's shirt right now, we have a entirely new score, sound direction. We didn't really talk about Halo 3's that much. I didn't think the big thing there was that it was fully orchestrated for the first time. There weren't a whole lot of new themes or new directions. This game there's a whole lot of sad saxophone and just kind of wallowing in your misery.
It's very noir, like jazzy,
yeah, you're by yourself.
Yeah,
really cool choice. That I think very easily may have not landed, but it does. It's just, I think it's, if they leaned a little bit further into, because the way you kind of navigate around the hub of this, something huge happened. I think the setup for this is a little contrived, where they wanted you to play as ODSTs. And so, okay, let's have them kind of, because I believe the premise of working on, we want to give people more of New Mombasa, is that it was, very short in Halo 2. It wasn't a lot of levels. So they did that, but it feels really awkward to me that the beginning of this game is shortly into Halo 2. It's called Halo 3 ODST. And you begin by trying to land your pods on the ship, which I always thought was weird. Like, are they taking like a pretty big chance that there's going to be something up there that they can like break into? Or it's a very thin premise that is immediately kind of dispelled by, oh, you're not actually trying to board a ship, you're actually going to land down in the city and look for something that you don't know what the real story is. So I don't. It's just like the way that it's set up is very just kind of. I think it's like if you were a newcomer, you would be completely lost. And I think it just doesn't really suck you in as well as it could have. I think in terms of they could have had, because Master Chief is kind of a strong silent type himself. And the only difference with the rookie is that he's a lot more vulnerable and he doesn't speak. You don't see his face either. He doesn't really have much character development. Like you could even make like little inferences about the Master Chief's character based on, I think you mentioned this previously, Nick, little animations or little, things he says. There's really nothing to get you into this guy's shoes. And I think a lot of the other characters are also kind of like they're funny. Like there's some Firefly alums there. There's what's her name
Most
from
of them are
Battlestar.
Firefly people.
Yeah. and like they're fun to be around. I just think it could have been because I was under the impression I think what they're trying to convey is that these people are probably all dead. Like as soon as you land, you wake up, it's nighttime, no one's around, you're probably the last survivor. But as the game goes on, it's like nope, everybody lived. It was just
right,
and they all lived happily ever after. I don't know, it's just I didn't really latch on to the characters that much, except for Nathan Fillion, of course.
I disagree with a few things that you're saying. I mean, I come from a slightly different. The term that I like to use is from Key and Peele, like my shit. The two theater ushers that talk about movies, and they're like, "That's my shit." Like my shit is like military science fiction stuff like this, and the core trilogy kind of leans more into like the like ancient space fantasy stuff of like the ancient race who built the rings and all that stuff. So when Halo 3 ODST goes in and it's like, no, here's this squad of special ops guys and this weird naval intelligence lady who just hijacked their mission and they're going in to do something that they got no idea what's going on. They're scattered to the wind, misdropped all over the place. Shit's going to hell and you have to fight a guerrilla war against the Covenant, survive and find your squad. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. Like, this is my shit.
Right. I kind of had the same thought, just in like fewer words. I think you articulated it better than me. I actually like felt some feels like walking around trying to find people. What I mean? I liked it.
Replaying it now too, like replaying it when it came out on the Master Chief Collection, which I was super excited about because it wasn't available on PC until then. I love just the feel of not encountering enemies, and it's like it's kind of at your own pace because you can go to any of the locations at any time basically, and the enemies are marked on your map by the AI for the most part, the superintendent. You can see groups of enemies on the map, so you can avoid them if you want. And so you can go minutes or, dozens of minutes or whatever. Like you can potentially get to the next objective and not encounter any enemies or go around them. And so like, I love the atmosphere and the vibe of it. And I will say the characters aren't the strongest because you don't spend a lot of time with them as the rookie. You mostly spend time with them through the flashbacks as those other characters because, you play as all of them at some point throughout the flashbacks, which I think is a really great way to give you a diverse mission structure in diverse locations and jump around without having to like contrive a reason for the rookie to be in all these places. I like that it's these flashbacks, and whether you want to explain it as like, oh, the rookie's inferring what happened, or it's just like, nah, here's what happened, but he just finds this bent sniper rifle or this empty biofoam canister, and it's like, okay. And in those cutscenes, you get a bit of a personality, like some funny little animations where like he picks up the biofoam canister and squeezes it, and like it goes, and he's like, oh, okay, whatever. And he's like trying to bend the sniper rifle back into place, even though it's like, why? It's not going to work even if you do.
Like he's just kind of at the mercy of these higher powers.
Yeah, and he's just like, why is nothing working out?
He's like, I'm just a detective looking for my next clue.
I do think the game has a lot of personality in that respect, and obviously you've got all the jokesters. You've got Adam Baldwin, Nathan Fillion, Alan Tudyk, and Nolan North are your squad mates, and then Trisha Helfer is Dare, the naval intelligence chick. And I think they're all characters that serve their purpose. You don't necessarily like. They're not all memorable. Obviously, Nathan Fillion as Buck goes on to be an important character throughout the 343 games.
Yeah.
And in the expanded lore, you know, he becomes a Spartan 4 and everything. And you know, his squad goes with him. They become important characters. But I will grant you that in the game, they're not necessarily the most memorable or like sort of personable. But for me, I also am very lenient with that kind of stuff when it comes to military fiction, because as long as they have some personality and they fulfill their roles, I'm kind of cool with it. And it has that Bungie charm still, that Halo charm. Like when you show up as an ODST and the Marines are like, oh, hey, it's an ODST. And it's like, they'd be happier if you were a Spartan, but it's still better than nothing. And it's, you know, and it's kind of, you get that vibe. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. It's, I do like that. I mean, it's, I personally think that it doesn't feel quite different enough, but there's only so much you can do if you're still using the Halo 3 engine. You know, the ODSTs, they can't hit as hard. They can't, you know, they're a lot more vulnerable. They don't have the Master Chief's energy shields. They can't jump as high or move as fast. I don't think that makes sense when you go into vehicles and you're nerfed. Like you, when you're driving the Scorpion, it takes like at least 2 shots to kill a Banshee. So it's like, I don't think that vehicles or weapons should feel that way, because you do have a couple new weapons at your disposal. The silenced weapons are really cool. The SMG and the pistol, they're like what you're using for most of the game. You know, there's just like tiny little variants, and they give the game that much more personality. It changes how you play the game compared to Halo 3.
I will cede the floor after this. I know I've been talking a lot at the beginning here, but one thing I do want to agree with you is that I think the ODST gameplay should have been a little more different. They do give you the visor, which is really cool. But you got to wonder, why doesn't the Mjolnir armor have that? Because it's the Spartan armor is so much better than what they have. Why doesn't that have the visor too? But yeah, no, like the silenced weapons are great. I love that you can actually kind of main those almost, because the Magnum's a headshot weapon, and the SMG is like a shield stripper. So you can strip shields and then headshot, and like you can actually just run around and do that.
Yeah, you can actually have fun when you're playing the game.
Well, and then there's like the weapons caches that you get for finding the audio logs and stuff.
Yeah,
and
that's new.
There's like sniper rifles and rocket launchers and mongooses, and it's like, oh, that's cool. But
drive around the city in a ghost.
Yeah, driving around bombing around in the mongoose is so much fun, and like evading brutes. But what I just wanted to say was that I've always wanted a Halo game, like a shooter, an FPS, not like Halo Wars, where you play as like the rank and file.
I agree.
Because I've mentioned this before, I think, at least off mic. You know, I play in a group that plays Arma 3, which is a military simulation game, and there is a total conversion mod that adds a bunch of Halo content, like custom made from scratch by like an indie developer. And playing that is so cool. I mean, a lot of the weapons are kind of scuffed a little bit, and like it plays weird, like it balances weird, because that game is not made for like sci-fi, it's made for like realism,
right?
But you know, fighting the insurrectionists, and they have added a few of the Covenant species as well. They've added like elites and jackals, I think. But you can do some really cool stuff with that, and playing as just like Marines and flying around in the Pelicans and the long swords and having the tanks and stuff like that is really cool. And I would love to see a properly done AAA game where there is not a Spartan in sight, and you just have to play as, you know, some dude with a helmet and body armor and a battle rifle who's
even now you're kind of making me kind of want that for the next one. I mean, that sounds like a cool idea, because I mean, not even, I think it would be neat to play as a Marine and kind of be in the Master Chief's shadow a little bit. Like he's there and he's kind of just showing you up. It's like
we've done missions like that too. We did a mission because there are Spartans in this mod, and I was leading the Spartan team, and then we had a bunch of ODSTs, and so they were sending us to literally do like one-man army missions while the ODSTs were struggling on the other side of the map, and it was so cool. I would love to see that in the real franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something great about this game is that it shows how much potential there is for Halo to exist as an open world kind of game, because I don't know, I just want to live in this world a little bit more. And I think that's something else with the characters. Like if we had a little bit more time to spend with them, I would have been more attached. Just need a little bit more longevity and a little more, you know, I don't know, it's they they don't all have to be as short as Halo 3. Is my basic.
Infinite could be that. Infinite could be that.
It really could, because it
They
seems
could
like
be doing the hub thing.
Yeah, it seems like they're really putting in the effort with the character too, like the pilot buddy. I could see getting attached to him, but that guy too. Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, Craig.
No,
I was gonna say,
ahead.
before you continue, Bebby, I think you guys maybe use some good words here. I think personality is a big word for this game. Even if like maybe the characters or missions aren't really robust or they aren't crazy special. I think something else too that you mentioned, that what's big for, I feel like I just latch onto this. I like playing as everyman sort of characters. Yeah. I think a turnoff for Halo for me in general is Master Chief is awesome. And like, that's not really an appeal to me when I play any game. Like, I don't want to play as Kratos, who's a god. I don't want to play as this unkillable thing. I like playing as the everyman who's vulnerable. I have an attachment to that. So maybe that's why this game appealed to me more than other ones, even if as a game it's not incredibly profound. It's
a different flavor for sure. I think like this game is very cut and dry. I don't want to get too into the nitty gritty. I think something that you mentioned earlier is the visor. It's a kind of unlimited like Batman detective mode you can turn on and off, and I do think that some of the times the atmosphere is kind of hamstrung by that, because there's really no reason to not use it other than it doesn't look pretty. I don't know. I don't have like a way around that. It's just like a problem that I noticed.
I would turn it off sometimes, just to like, it would actually help me see better sometimes if I was just trying to see like. But obviously it highlights items and enemies, so it's like there's no reason not to.
Right.
Going back to the music really quick though, there's a bitchin' series of tracks in this that aren't like the noir jazzy things. It's cut together on YouTube, and it's usually called like Where the Desperate Measures or something like that.
Right.
And it cuts together a few of the different tracks from like when they're prepping for the drop. And then there's another one, I think it's actually on one of the later levels, or possibly the last level when you're on the highway in the tank. And it's like that shredding guitar when like all the phantoms are showing up and stuff, and like those tracks are like some of my favorite in the entire franchise. Like the soundtrack in general is up there, but like those building like missions beginning tracks, and then like that like guitar whining shredding when you're like fighting like the final battle is so cool. I love it.
He definitely didn't like phone it in. I think that those kind of tracks play, and probably my favorite part of this campaign is with the sniper mission on the rooftops.
Yes.
That's a lot of fun. It has a couple highlights, this campaign here and there. I think a lot of it overlaps into this was new for the series as well, the firefight mode. There's a couple kind of just encounters that are just waves and waves, and it doesn't hurt the campaign necessarily. They just got they were able to recycle those moments for the firefight mode, which is a lot of fun in this game. They do a lot more with it in Reach, which we'll talk about. But I mean, it's awesome. It's still, they have it on PC now. It's a lot of fun to play with your buds. They pretty much, there was no other. I think there was online co-op for this one.
There was,
but there was no other multiplayer component, so it was nice. I mean, I still think $60 was a bit much to pay for it, but it's a little bit more than nothing.
Was it 60 back in the day?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah,
because I thought it was 40.
3 maps in it with it. Yeah,
I honestly felt like I got more. I honestly felt like I got more play time out of that game than Halo 3.
Really? You've been very quiet so far. Let's hear from you. What do you think?
Yeah, I have been, haven't I? All right, so let's see. Initial thoughts on this game. It took me a while to, end up playing it for the first time, because I remember I was just so like disillusioned and made simple by Halo 3 that when I heard of this like weird spin-off coming out, I just felt so like dejected at that point, and I had a very cynical attitude toward like getting it and playing it, and it wasn't until like years and years later, or like I think it was still before the Master Chief Collection came out, but it couldn't have been like more than like a year or two before that, where like my brother was getting into it, and I figured like, okay, fine. And then I was pleasantly surprised at how like engrossing it was. I to this day, I mean, if I'm ever going back and replaying any of these, I'm always looking forward to this one more than the actual Halo 3, which is strange to think that the weird spin-off game hits me harder than the game that it's being spinned off of. You mean
like Final Fantasy Tactics? Sorry.
Oh, you mean no, more like Final Fantasy X too? No, just kidding.
Right. Yeah.
That's a whole other discussion in itself. But I guess like the way I describe this game, I guess I'd use the term like the term art house film. This is like the video game equivalent of that. It's I don't know. I think it has a really just in concept, it's pretty creative for like a Halo game. I don't know, just atmospherically, there are just so many other things too that I think it does better than Halo 3 that I wish Halo 3 did. They're just like some unfortunate consequences of the fact that it's derivative of like, the Halo 3 engine, which is why like in canon, it would make way more sense if they were elites to fight, because this takes place right after the Mombasa levels on Halo 2.
Right.
So this is weeks before the Covenant Civil War.
It doesn't really make sense now.
And that also brings us to that scene where like you're walking through the town, and like I think Buck makes the observation like, well, there's like all these dead elites on the ground,
right.
And then Buck makes the observation, or he says something to the effect of like, well we didn't kill him. And I think that they're alluding to like what ends up happening, right? Exactly. And I'm like, that doesn't this not happen for until like weeks from now?
It's bizarre. It's also like all the brutes are wearing like their current armor, and they were not present on Earth in Halo 2, and then they're all just there. There's a couple there's a couple continuity issues with these couple games that I don't really understand the sequence of events. There's a post-credit scene where Sergeant Johnson is there, and it says 1 month later, and I'm like, wait, so I was under the impression like this all happened pretty fast. And it just, there's so much kind of little, because I was very into Halo as I mentioned in the previous episode, like a clockwork kind of series where everything had its like point A, point B, cause and consequence. And there's a lot of just really strange stuff. I think I don't have too much more to say about this game, other than I like the engineers. They finally introduced those. They're kind of cool. They're like a mage kind of for the Covenant, where they buff them. And they're, as Nick mentioned, they're subservient to the Covenant. So they're you freeing them. And it's kind of cool. There's a little mini game where I think it's just like a couple achievements where if you save a certain amount or you kill a certain amount, you get achievements. And it's, I don't know, it has personality. I think ultimately the plot of this game is completely pointless, because the whole point is to get the engineer out of the city and see what it knows. And the end credits is like, oh well, they're actually, they're looking for a Forerunner artifact beneath the ruins. And what did it tell them? Fucking nothing of value, because in the beginning of Halo 3 they don't know what it is. They think it's the Ark. And so it's like, all this is for nothing.
The engineer did download Virgil.
Right.
So the engineer did download the city superintendent. So I think I'm almost positive that was actually the mission. I think like Dare's mission initially was to capture an engineer or get the superintendent, one of the two, and then that became the same thing because the engineer had downloaded the superintendent.
But Sergeant Johnson is interrogating it at the end, and he's like, "You're going to tell me everything you know about that, what they're digging up over there."
Yeah.
That's what all this was about. I don't know. It's like, it's a cute story. I just think if they had put a little bit more thought into it, it would have gone a lot further.
Yeah. And because that information never really ends up meaning anything, as far as I know, because they figure out what it is because
halfway through the third game.
Because they open it, they go through the portal, and they go.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how I feel. Like, oh, it's cute, but it doesn't really, like, I don't know. It's you guys are probably a little bit higher on it than me. I think I was just really burned out at the time.
It's pretty high up for me.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like middling for me.
I just feel like you and Derek were just like so triggered by like Halo 3, or like you were so what's the word? You were so like like ruined by Halo 3. Yeah, disillusioned. Disillusioned is a good word. I think for me, like what I was looking for from Halo was a contrast game, or like something that was, I wanted a pleasant surprise or something off kilter or something kind of out of left field, and this kind of gave it to me. So like I was kind of into the whole finding your squad mates and going down into, what is it called? Where did they go to find? I forget what you do.
Oh, the Hive.
Yeah. I actually
awesome.
kind of liked how the game went from you're alone, you find the separate stories, then at the end there's a final mission where you actually do the thing. I actually liked it. I feel like maybe I think you're right, Peppy. I think I'm just higher on it than maybe other people in this conversation. But I like the game.
I think it's got some. I like it when the engineer then they're in the garbage truck and he beeps the horn. That's cute.
I do too.
And they,
I like that moment when Dare first gets in the elevator with you and Buck and the engineer, and she's like, "You didn't kill any of them, did you?" Buck's like,
it's got a handful of like really endearing moments. I think overall, like what encapsulated me the most is that that the game just has a really neat sort of art style. Like it was refreshing to like playing that game. You really felt like it was more inspired than Halo 3. Like it feels like a very like unsuppressed work of art.
Like they made it because they wanted to.
Yeah, even if the plot in the grand scheme of things is pointless, like it's, I don't know, it's got the sort of charm to it that Halo 3 just doesn't. And it was just sort of a breath of fresh air after playing Halo 3.
You've just reminded me of something. I fucking hate. There are two general enemy types in games that I hate really a fucking lot, and it's little ones that explode and hurt you a lot.
Yep.
And flying ones that are fucking annoying. So I hate the drones in these games.
Oh God.
When you're in the hive, like running to fight the drones, I like that section. That's how good this game is. Because they give
that
you,
seems awesome.
Because the carbine can one-shot them if you get them in the head. Unless it's the shield ones, and it takes like 3 shots. And the SMG that they give you is good. The silent submachine gun is so fucking good. And they give you ammo for it.
And also, the whole like the allegory of like the 9 circles of hell, and you're going down in the hive, the levels you descend. I think you start like in 6 or 7. And you keep going down. You follow that the one human enemy in the Halo series, the corrupt police officer. And if you complete like the side quest where you find all like the tapes or whatever, he turns on you. He tries to kill you because he says you've seen too much.
Right.
And because he's going to like kill somebody or make sure somebody's dead. And the whole thing is because it's Virgil leading you down the circles of hell, and that's why the last one is so cold, because it's the 9th circle, and that's where it's in the Divine Comedy. Pretty cool.
You know what's funny is that cop, if you don't get all the audio logs, you jump down the little thing first, and then he gets killed by drones. You can
that happened to me. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the superintendent shuts him in there. He closes the door on him, so he gets killed. Pretty cool.
And then it says crime doesn't pay, and then it's like a little smiley face.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm all set on ODST. It's definitely like upper middle for me. I don't have I'm not gonna piss on anyone who doesn't like it.
Yeah, it definitely works as like a standalone game too.
Yeah, I agree.
It feels very self-contained. I know I keep comparing it to Halo 3 because why wouldn't I? But it's like,
in the title.
Well, of course,
the
right? Because one of the first things that like really struck me is how much they like the atmosphere in that game is what Halo 3's Earth levels should have been. It's like that game did what its predecessor really should have done. Like the walking around the Mombasa streets post what am I trying to say? Like
the slip space event.
Yeah, post slip space event, right? Like post siege. Like that to me is the devastated Covenant controlled Earth that we were promised in the
sure
the main game.
Can I tell you one stupid superficial gripe I have about this game?
Sure.
I don't like the open suits, like with the fingerless gloves and like the open necks. Like, because I liked the idea that they could go out into space, because you always see them in like the airlocks in Halo 2, and I was like, dude, they just don't look as cool to me. You know what I mean?
ODSTs are badass, man. But
Yeah, I think that is the definition of a superficial complaint. I think.
Yeah, it made me uncomfortable.
I agree, because just think of the practicality of that. If you're gonna survive an onslaught of enemies, like to a near degree that Master Chief does, you want to be like fully clothed. I mean, not cloaked, but you want to be fully
clothed.
Right, but if you look at, I mean, not to get all but actually or like lore on you, but I mean the armor that the Marines wear only works so well, and a lot of them would rather, and this is true in real life too, is like you would rather just have the maneuverability and the comfort if you're gonna be wearing this shit for days on end, instead of like the off chance that like a plasma bolt that hits you in the neck doesn't just melt through the armor and kill you anyway.
Yeah,
like, you know.
I just meant being able to survive in vacuum,
well, they're not operating in vacuum though. I mean, they ODSTs drop from low orbit, so technically speaking, like, I mean, it would be unpleasant, but I don't think they would die if like the ship got breached. They would just be falling.
I don't know. For some reason, I thought I remembered them participating in like space operations.
I mean, they do, but I think they wear specialized stuff when they do that.
It's just a petty gripe. It's a fun game. I'm all set. I'm done grumbling.
I know. I just like to nerd out about this shit, and I love this game. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all for ODST. So I think next we're gonna go into Reach after a brief intermission.
And we're back, everybody. We are going to discuss the game that came out right afterwards, 1 year later, Halo Reach. Significantly bigger game than the previous one. More of a proper successor to Halo 3. A lot of, kind of tech improvements, etc. It's a whole new ball game. There were a couple different kind of ideas floated around because they had to fulfill this contract, and they initially were considering continuing the story, but they threw that out pretty quickly. Some other candidates, I believe, what became ODST, they floated a Covenant specific game, which would have been cool, as well as a Sergeant Johnson game.
Oh yeah,
and that's what I want. No, but this game kind of came together because Reach is so important to the canon of Halo. It's what happens right before the events of the first game. It is sort of humanity's kind of homeworld in this universe, just getting turned to ash. It's very much ripped off by Rogue One. It's like, it's the same thing. There's a lot of similarities. I thought ultimately to kind of put a cap on my preamble here, I think this game is really successful. I think there's some problems with the balancing of the multiplayer. I think this is one of the most substantial games in this series. I think that despite the characters having some of the similar problems as the ones in ODST, I think the feels are a little bit stronger in this game. It's a very by nature kind of somber game. Yeah. Where if you don't know anything about this universe, it's kind of propping you up that, the first couple missions or outings are kind of triumphant, and then over the course of the game, it just gets more and more bleak. Your buddies start dropping off one by one. Honestly, just a pretty memorable experience top to bottom. They chock it full of so many things. The Halo 3's Forge and theater mode come back, and the firefight from ODST is way more customizable. They just pretty much take everything up to 11 in this game, and I think it's one of the most well-rounded experiences. I don't know how you guys feel. I'm
actually reasonably high on this game. I feel like I'm big on the spin-offs in this franchise, or big on the offshoots. What I like about this game and I'm sure we'll talk about this, is it's another aesthetic thing for me, where I think I actually said this to you, Beppy. Either you and I were either talking on the phone or on Xbox Live. I think what I said to you about Halo Reach is that I really like the sense of dread that starts to permeate over the course of the game, where you kind of start off as this badass sort of squad, and then you kind of get the sinking feeling that these guys are not going to get out of this. You know what I mean? And it kind of permeates slowly throughout the game. And I mean, I won't go right to the end of the game now, but it's just the ending is good too. And I don't know, man. I'm even kind of going beyond gunplay and mission to mission, because I feel like I'm generally lower on Halo gunplay than everyone else in this chat. I just think for me, on a feels level, I like how you sort of descend into the somberness of this game, and it's kind of a doomed mission. I like it. I think it's pretty good.
Very well paced.
Yeah,
very well paced.
I think something that they really kind of take full advantage of is, I think this is my favorite like sandbox of any Halo game.
Sure.
I think there's just a lot of fun stuff going on. They kind of went back to roots. They basically, their in-canon explanation is that the planet was destroyed, so all these prototypes were lost and all that stuff. But it's pretty cool because they kind of went back to the drawing board for a lot of designs. Some work out better than others, but there's a lot of like fun Halo weapons and vehicles in this game. Like the needle rifle is awesome. The grenade launcher is terrific. A lot of just like first time stuff that's really surprising that wasn't in a Halo game before now. The Falcon is probably my favorite vehicle, period, of any Halo game. It's like a helicopter, but it really has its own feel. It doesn't just feel like a 3D object moving through space. You kind of gotta get it going and give it some gas to kind of. It feels like it's hefty.
It has
it's like
physics.
It's weighty. Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. I mean, a lot of stuff just feels like it has a lot of detail in it. They let you drive some derpy like trucks and forklifts and farming equipment and stuff like that. A lot of great additions. I don't know. How do you guys feel about the armor abilities in this game? Mixed bag, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff in this game just rubs me the wrong way because, I mean, you mentioned that, all these things were destroyed because Reach was lost, but it's still like when I look back on the franchise then and I'm like, where were all these cool things? But there's a really funny, if you follow any of the meme pages at all, there's a really funny debate that people get like militant over about sprint.
Right.
Like what?
Oh my god!
Like why do Spartans have a sprint ability? Because your fastest running speed is sprinting, but Spartans are advanced in their armor targeting systems let them aim and shoot while they're running. It's like, why would you then lower basically lower the regular movement speed to increase the speed when you're running but can't shoot, and then thus have to make the maps bigger because you're running more, and it's like you need to account for
it
sprint.
Changed the map design like completely. This is where it started, basically.
Did you guys dislike it? I didn't hate it. I thought it was fine.
Reach? The game in general?
I'm saying like how the maps are now bigger and you have to compensate for movement speed and how quickly you can move around.
Because Halo is not a long-range game unless you have a sniper rifle, and so to have big open maps like that where you can't really actually do anything to somebody even though you can see them from further than you can really effectively engage them is kind of like if you don't have the vehicles in the mix, but like if you can just see a guy running, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll kill you in a second. You have to like run over to them.
I do like that it kind of separates itself in that way and is still kind of, in my opinion, fun. That it's not just something that is kind of a turnoff for me in a lot of like yearly franchises, is that they're kind of just improvements of the previous one. And I like that this is at least like a kind of a different flavor than Halo 3.
Yeah, I like that they tried some new stuff. And some of the armor abilities, like, I mean, armor lock is kind of just silly because it's just like, well, this isn't physics, but
I never used that one.
Yeah, but like, I mean, sprinting is fine I guess as a default, whatever. I don't like it, but and then what else do they have? Like the shield.
The jetpack is awesome.
The jetpack is very fun. I love the jetpack part.
I wish it had like a little more juice, but other than that, it's fun to
jetpacks
play
never have enough
with.
juice. They're never powerful enough. And they never have enough juice. There's like What was it? There was
Gotta do a
like that
jetpacks
PS
episode.
like that PS3 game Dark Void had cool jetpack stuff. But anyway,
That fucking game. Interesting.
But
interesting comparison. Go ahead.
But as for Reach on its own, as kind of like my general thing, I like this game. Again, it kind of falls into the my shit because it's much more focused on like the military operations side of Halo, and just this like desperate delaying action basically because they know like essentially that this is it, like we're not gonna win. And something about the characters in this, I don't like them as much as ODST. And
too much bravado.
Well, not even necessarily that. I feel like they're too stock, because it's like, okay, you have Noble Six, who is just kind of you, whatever, and it's like, okay, and then you have Carter, who is like the no nonsense leader. You have snarky tech chick. You have edgy man. You have quiet sniper, and you have big man. And it's like, but big man is nice, even though he's scary. And it's like, okay, well, I don't know. And it's like, I felt like I knew where all of this was going to go, and I basically did. And like some of them kind of go out cool. I mean, obviously Kat just gets fucking shot in the head, which like I actually kind of liked, because it's like that can happen. Although I don't know why her shields were down, but
what I like about that moment is that's kind of where I felt like the game gets better, because it's kind of like, oh shoot. I mean, literally, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But where it's like, oh, whoops, whoa, okay, I guess someone just got picked off. She's done.
Yeah,
right,
and like I like that kind of just goes like, hey, guess what? The Spartans can die, and they're gonna. And it's like, okay,
right. I feel like that's where the game improves. It's kind of like right there.
That's another one of those instances where they wanted their little scene and they got it. Because if there was a beam rifle in this game, we wouldn't be questioning that.
Right, but it was a needle rifle.
It's headshotted with a.
Like,
so she should be fine.
Well, canonically, she had her shields down, but I don't know why. So like, I don't get that.
A deleted scene.
I do feel like most of the death scenes in this game were like way more earned than they were in Halo 3.
Oh, they were.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, when Kat died, I felt that. I mean, it's like one of you guys said, like through the course of the game, like the slow burn of things just getting worse and worse and worse, and your friends just keep getting picked off one by one. Earth is more and more in flames as the game progresses. I think it's a very, very well paced game. So when Kat died, I felt like it didn't feel forced. It felt like it was there to serve a higher purpose of
absolutely.
Furthering the story. Although I do agree on the way it was executed. Like a needle rifle, like one shot to the back would not have killed her. But still, I mean, like the thought of just conceptually her dying there in that scene in that moment made, I think, perfect sense from a narrative
and they earned that,
perspective.
and that overrides the execution for me, I think. I didn't really mind any of the characters' deaths, and I mean, obviously June disappears because he goes to protect, what is it, Halsey or whatever, and then he ends up becoming like a Spartan 4 instructor later on. But
Dr. Halsey is in the books pretty frequently, and she makes her debut in the video games in this one. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it is good to see her.
She's pretty involved in the plot. It's the same voice actor as Cortana, which is awesome. She is probably at her most interesting in this game. I think in the 343 game, she's not quite as compelling. She's really cool. Your boss, Colonel whatever, he's really nothing. He's just kind of the guy that gives you orders.
Yeah.
He disappears. The AI, I think, is kind of whatever. What's her name again?
Nick and I both say, I
remember. I should know this. I know all kinds of dumb shit, but I don't.
You know what I mean, though, right? Like she wasn't really.
She just like adds to the briefing at the end, and then that's it. Like you're just done.
Yeah, just little. I mean, and I think the most effective deaths were the first couple. Kat and George, the big guy. His sacrifice is awesome.
But then it's for nothing. 10 seconds later, when the whole fleet jumps in.
It's incredible.
It's like,
honestly, the really badass guy, I wish he had like died like a punk.
That would have been
like,
so funny.
It's just to really
opens
top
the door
it all
and just
off.
gets a sword through the chest or something, and it just
very ironic.
He gets a pretty heroic send off. Honestly, it's you could do worse. It's just they could have been better. And that's another thing. Like if this game was longer, you would have been able to get a little bit more attached to them, spend some more time with them.
Bep, your phrasing, your phrase you've been going back to throughout this of they wanted their scene and they got it, is basically this game, and that is the thing that I love the most about it, because again, my shit, military science fiction. Let's just have a bunch of really cool missions. And so, they have like the quiet sniper mission where you're with June and you're picking off all the enemies, and you find the militia guys and you help them. And then they have like the big fuck off like charge across the plain, and you're with Kat, and then you get the grenade launcher for the first time, and it's like, oh shit.
And then you take the service road. Unfortunately, you don't participate in that big attack.
I know,
that's my only gripe.
But then they do the civilian stuff that you guys were talking about, especially Derek.
Very well
in ODST that they didn't really do anything with, or Halo 3 as well. They do it so much better here because you have the evacuation of New Alexandria. You have
there's a bunch of hipsters running around. You gotta rescue them.
You have multiple encounters with civilian population in this, and the brutes are just exterminating them. And the introduction of the brutes in this
the brutes
is actually really well executed. I think the brutes are the best in this
because they're different. They're at least like they
can't decide what the brutes look like in this franchise.
No.
Yeah. Although I can't decide which one I think is worse, the Halo 3 brute or this brute. At least they don't have disturbed goatees.
I think 3 is the worst because there was 3 has like the worst graphics, and the design of 3's brutes doesn't support the graphics that they have, I think. And it's just,
I think they're uglier in this one, but they're a lot more rugged, which I like.
That serves the purpose of them, like them being uglier. I think serves that they're, because you fight the elites for a lot of this game, and you still do after the brutes are introduced, which is great because the elites are threatening as fuck in this game.
Yeah, they're scary. They only speak language. They don't speak English anymore.
Yeah. What do you think the decision making behind that was?
I think they just wanted to reintroduce them because they weren't really enemies.
They wanted to make
a
them
lot
scarier,
of 2
sure.
and then none of 3 or ODST. I think they were just like, we got to bring these guys back because they're the iconic enemies of
No, I mean the with the decision to have them not speak English anymore. I mean,
just more.
I suppose it makes sense considering they didn't speak English in Halo.
Worth noting, this game you only fight the Covenant, so they really kind of.
I think it goes back to what Bep and Greg have both said at the top of this, is that they're trying to create this depressing, oppressive, like somber mood, and I think not understanding what the enemies are saying and not having them be, even the grunts aren't really all that like funny. They just kind of make like gurgles and grunts. They don't like little people first and like all that. Like they just kind of make little yips when you shoot them and like stuff. And,
I mean, it just adds to like how tonally this game feels pretty good. No matter like how you feel about other parts of it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's great that they kind of like throw everything but the kitchen sink in, because you have all the familiar Covenant races returning, including the engineers from the previous game. And it's really, it feels very much like this is our last one. We're just pushing the boat out. It's really impressive that they are only using this one faction and it doesn't feel stale at any point. Like they come up with good enough kind of different configurations of them.
And the encounter design is impeccable, and the scenarios, as I was just saying, like that they put you in. You've got the space combat, which isn't great, but like you've got the Saber mission.
I think it does its job.
You board the Corvette and you're blowing stuff up, like you're boarding a ship and blowing it up, and like you've just got all these really cool scenarios, and they use the enemy sandbox and the weapon sandbox really well. I have the potential for a gun rant that I'm probably not going to go on, but I don't like a lot of the human weapons in this. I think a lot of them feel underpowered, but the Covenant weapons make up for it. A lot of the Covenant weapons in this are really cool. I think the assault rifle in this is still underpowered. It's better than 3, but not as good as 1. I think the DMR, people like the DMR more than they should. I don't think the DMR is that great.
I like it.
I don't
could have
like
been a little
much.
stronger.
I think the battle rifle is better. I would have rather have had that.
You're wrong. I disagree.
Shoot.
I like the DMR more. That's all I'm going to say, though. I don't really have like a cogent argument to.
Well, the thing that's always
with
bothered
any objectivity,
me, the thing that's always bothered me about the DMR. This is This is a mini like 30-second gun rant. In universe.
I'm timing you.
What? You're timing. Okay, sorry.
I made a joke. I just said I'm timing.
In universe, the assault rifle is chambered in 7.62 by 5.1 308 standard NATO round. The DMR is chambered in the same round. They have like the same barrel length. There's no reason that the DMR should exist. It doesn't matter. Like it needs to be a different caliber.
It's the same thing.
The battle rifle should be a different.
Cool.
The battle rifle's a different caliber, and it works that way. It has a scope. It's a different caliber. It hits harder. Just do that anyway.
Sure. Well, maybe that guy left. What's his name?
No, it is
That
a cool
was
gun,
30 seconds.
and it fits a niche. But what's that?
I said that was 30 seconds.
Excellent.
Very good.
Yeah, the DMR. The DMR is fine. I just don't think it's. I don't think it should have been the standard weapon.
Yeah, well, it kind of harkens
Sure.
back to that early Halo 2 demo where the battle rifle used to.
It's semi-automatic. Yeah.
And instead of 3-round bursts. Yeah.
Play Arma.
So I like it a lot. That was the weapon that I always sort of like searched for on the battlefield. And when I got it, I'm like, yes.
It was good for killing anything that didn't have shields, but after that, it was like, or even then.
I liked the airstrike targeter too. That was awesome. That was really cool. Nice that they finally put something like that in the game.
Anytime
I just want to. Yeah,
and
for
also,
sure.
I don't know if any of you guys got this, but I feel like with this game, there's more of an emphasis on, there's more like an importance toward like getting headshots than there are in the other games. I don't know if you guys
definitely
got the same impression. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's for sure. No, I kind of wanted to cap it off with some campaign highlights, but before that, I wanted to ask if you guys spent any time with some of the other modes in this game and how you felt about the many memorable experiences.
I didn't personally, because I believe in this game. Now, Beppy, can you reiterate? Is Firefight and Forge back in this? Is that what that is? I didn't participate in either of them, so I did not.
Firefight in this game is insane.
It's so much fun.
It's pretty much you can customize like every very granular down to the detail of like what enemies will show up when and how they'll show up. Will they come out of a drop pod or a phantom or something like that? It's very, very customizable, and it's got a lot of longevity. The Forge also, they really again pushed the boat out with the Forge World or Forge Island, whatever they call it. And there's just so much more space and so many more kind of items to play around with. It's just like there's a lot going on in this game. The invasion is a new feature as well. Did you guys play that?
Yes,
mode
that was my favorite multiplayer mode, was the Spartans versus Elites.
Because the Elites play a little differently in this one.
Yeah, they actually have like a different hitbox, I think. Like the headshot is lower because they stoop and all that, or something like that. I remember
they have recharging health, whereas you don't as a Spartan, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, just a lot of fun to be had, even outside of the campaign. But just wanted to dig in and see if you guys had any, because there's so many huge set pieces in this. I think my all-time favorite Halo level is in this game, and it's the space one you were just talking about, because it's just like, it is ultimately like a couple series of maps.
Yes.
And that's it, and your imagination kind of does the rest with flying up there in the jet and taking down like the space banshees and all that stuff. And man, really cool mission, a lot going on. That's kind of like the scale
you get to see the
that I was missing
for the first time in action,
games.
the actual space fighters, which you first see in person, I believe, in Halo 2 in the room with the heretic leader. His ship is a Seraph fighter.
Yeah, really cool overall, like mission design, not too many whiffs. I don't know, I thought the space combat was kind of fun in the campaign, and I would have liked to have seen it in multiplayer.
Are you referring to like the Star Fox part?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty neat.
It's neat. It
nice
doesn't overstay its welcome. I think if it had gone on any longer, it would have been like, all right.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Right.
I played through this game recently for the first time in like a decade, and I think, I hate to say it, but that part annoyed me the most. Like just gameplay wise, I think in concept it's a really cool idea, very very kind of Star Warsy. On heroic or legendary, it's like the amount of times you die, and like with so few checkpoints.
I was gonna say higher difficulty.
Really?
It's annoying.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. It was irritating, but I thought it was cool.
Just in concept, yes.
Yeah.
Although, like, there came to a point where, like, I'd spent like a half hour on it. Like, I just kept dying over and over again, and I just sort of wanted to get back to my more traditional, like, Halo play style.
I never had a problem with it. I must be good at this game.
Maybe, yeah. I was just gonna say that. I mean, I am pretty terrible at video games across the board.
So to go to to answer kind of both of your points, Bep, I mean, Firefight was always what I played this for. Once I beat the campaign once or twice with like friends and stuff, it was just like the amount of like I just remember setting like these insane things with like infinite ammo. And like power weapons everywhere, and just spawning in the most insane, overwhelming odds, but just having infinite ammo rocket launchers and just running around blowing everything up and like creating these weird combinations. Like Firefight, I would waste hours and hours in. It was so fun. But
yeah,
as far as campaign highlights go, I think it's everything surrounding New Alexandria. So right after the space battle.
The city, yeah.
When you show up and you have a pistol and you're like, oh, what's going on? And you just see brutes like massacring everybody and you're like, oh, okay. And
yeah, that's what's
they're
going
really
on.
kind of up the ante there because you think like that one ship is destroyed and the day is saved, but then it just keeps getting worse because more show
George's
up.
sacrifice was for nothing, and like
I'm just gonna very briefly mention that the big controversy with this game is that it doesn't make sense with the established canon. I don't really care, but it seems like at certain points they did care about matching it up. Like they mention Castle Base, which is a something from the books, and it's like we need to get you to Castle Base, and that's where Dr. Halsey is. And I'm like, you don't even need to like. You can just go for it. It's okay. Like there's no reason why the Pillar of Autumn is there. When it should be in a space battle at this time, but okay, you wanted your little scene, you got it.
Yeah,
that's what it always comes down to, and it really makes for an effective final set piece for this game. Is the last mission is called the Pillar of Autumn, as the first mission of Halo 1 was.
Well, it does also neatly tie.
That was some big feels.
Yes, and it does neatly tie in too because it actually gives the reason why they're at the Halo ring when the Cole Protocol jumps are just supposed to be random, and it's like why are they at Halo? And it's like, oh, because Cortana had the coordinates and she jumped it to there, not knowing what was going to be there, but knowing it was important.
It really raises the stakes at the end because you're not, the kind of the front half of this game is trying to save the planet, and the back half is knowing it's a lost cause, and you're just trying to transport that last little hope, and you are introduced to Cortana, and unfortunately she doesn't talk, but I thought that would have been cool if the last mission is her talking to you, like giving you directions or something.
It's actually a shard of her. It's like the other half of something, and like you're bringing it to unite it, so maybe she can't talk, but we've seen her split herself before, so I don't know. But yeah, I agree. It would have been cool if she had talked.
No, yeah, but I think this last level is spectacular. I think the ending is really fun with the Mac cannon where you're shooting that stuff down. That's such a fun set piece,
dude. And I was sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Ben.
No, go right ahead.
I was gonna say, like, if we're talking about the end of the game, you asked us what the standout moments were from the campaign. It's the last 5 minutes, right?
Right.
When, like, dude, I mean, maybe this
casual. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no. I mean,
I'm
like,
joking. It's pretty tough.
No, actually, that's a really funny joke. I didn't realize what you were getting at. No, I mean, maybe that's more of maybe everybody thinks that, but I like the last 5 minutes where you just run around for as long as you can and then you do die at the end of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, like. This isn't the only game that has done this, but I've never really seen that from a Halo game where you have kind of the ironic doomed ending. I thought it was very powerful. I mean, I like it. Even when I was younger, when I was in high school and I played this, I liked this ending.
I normally hate cop-out endings where it's like, we just killed everybody because it's dramatic, but this actually earns it completely.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's well set up. I like it.
Felt very similar.
The last thing I have to say about that is that I do think it's very effective, especially considering I don't really care for the main character at all. It's like a very kind of it's an interesting coda because I was reading that some people on the team actually did not want it in the game, so they were trying to cut it. And I'm like, dude, this is like one of the best parts about it.
Dude,
where
seriously,
you're starting to see the cracks in your screen, and your little HUD elements are going away as you're taking hits, and you don't realize at first that there is nobody's coming to save you. Like, this is it, and it's. There's that little subtitle that says there'll be another time, and it's a nice little Han Solo reference there. Very obscure, But great ending. I think a great game. Well, definitely higher echelon for me. I don't know if you guys have any final thoughts on it.
Well, first of all, Noble Six survived and he's in a cave.
Of course.
Wow.
That's what they all say.
But
maybe he'll come back one day in a future spin-off like Boba Fett. Yeah, I mean, the ending I think was very, very effective in sort of pulling the heartstrings, so to speak. I mean, I felt very similar to the way I felt at the end of reading The Fall of Reach, which I don't know if any of you guys.
Yes.
I mean, I know Beppy's read it. I don't know about.
I love the books before the 343 games. They're great.
That book is really
when this
good.
Game was,
period.
yeah, when this game, yeah, it's such a good book. When this game was coming out, am I alone here in hoping that it was going to be a Master Chief origin story like that book was?
Yeah, I think it might have been more effective if it told us a little bit more about his character, and used it kind of as that. But it does have its own tragic flavor. Is that it doesn't really make sense that there's all these Spartan 3s running around on Reach, but whatever. I don't know. It worked. I think I've made my peace with this game. Whatever gripes I have are pretty small. The only thing that is kind of funny about it is there is a post-credits where you see humans coming back to Reach to recolonize it. And this is like, it's established like 2580 something or whatever. And I'm like, okay, so I know we're going to survive the next couple games.
Right.
So it's like,
they plot shield the franchise.
That's what Bungie said anyway. Then 343 was like,
sure, we could still retcon it.
That is true.
But this is the end of the line for Bungie. This is the last one that we'll be discussing that was under their umbrella before they moved on to make Destiny.
Oh, great. Though the Halo with numbers or whatever.
The Untamed.
Dude, I know. My final thoughts for Halo Reach, I kind of already said it. I thought there were like enough emotional moments in this game and enough like sort of pings at the heartstrings, and how the atmosphere starts to permeate through the game after that very sudden sniper death happens. That's when I felt like I just got more into it, where you could kind of sense what was gonna happen, and even though it does end up happening, it still feels good.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe besides like variation in Halo, I think what I miss a lot, or what's missing for me, is the feels. Yeah, and I think this game really feels like you have a purpose, even though it's a doomed mission. And I don't know. I feel like maybe I latch on too much to the feels in games and the everyman shit.
It does also commit to the tone, because that's something I didn't talk about in ODST, is that not only, I mean, like, because it's kind of a moody game, but there's a lot of kind of lighthearted stuff going on in ODST. And this game, it is very like doubling down on the sadness, and I think it works really well.
There's like barely any levity in Reach. And I think it works really well.
I don't have much to add other than that, I mean, I think this is the only game on replay on the MCC. This is the only game that actually went up for me in terms of like, I actually liked it better the second time around, playing it like way later. I mean, everything that you guys have said, pretty much I agree with in terms of like how it nails the tone and the moments, and it really earns everything. I still have some problems with the weapon sandbox, but I'm just a Combat Evolved boomer, so don't listen to me.
Yeah. All right. So fellas, next time we will be discussing the entry of 343 Industries with Halo 4. So I hope our audiences will bear with us as we work through this swamp.
Hey, I like 4.
Oh God.
4 is good.
It's a mixed bag.
Let's go.
I can't wait for 5.
All right. God. See you then, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, see ya.